Welcome back to the stage Max Bearak to speak with Andrew Forrest, CEO of Fortescue.
Hi again. I'm here with Andrew Forrest, whose Fortescue mining company is one of the biggest in the world, and but he's also a major investor in green hydrogen, green ammonia, the electrification of industrial equipment, renewable energy that goes into making all of that. And you have been investing all over the world, not just in Australia, where you're from. But I got the sense from talking to you before this that you're kind of raring to go to talk about what's going on here in this country. And I know that you have had to turn around some of the investments that you were planning to make in the US on batteries, on green hydrogen. I'm wondering if you could talk about those decisions in the light of what we heard yesterday at the UN.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I see the killer app for the 21st century to be really solar connected to the new battery technology, which is now being mass-produced in several parts of the world. It just gives me so much excitement that the world of 24/7 renewable energy, baseload power like a coal mine or a nuclear power station, is right on our doorstep. And it'll be cheaper, and it won't destroy your children's future. And yes, we are placing large bets on molecules as well, on green ammonia, green hydrogen. There's a green hydrogen ship which is floating in New York Harbour, Pier 36. You're welcome to go and have a look at it. When I started to see the pushback by the United States on shipping, which really holds much of your future in its hands, 3% of global carbon dioxide pollution now going to 10%. The climate cannot afford that. We all, as organic life, cannot afford that. So, but there's a vote about to happen in London in October, which will trigger whether or not the shipping industry goes green or it doesn't. I believe the good guys are going to win and win handsomely. But we built that ship to prove that green shipping is here, and we sailed it into New York when I started to learn that the United States was going to penalise companies, countries, individuals with tariffs, with visa withdrawals, if we support the IMO. Well, we're going to support the IMO, and I brought the ship here to prove it.
But you've also had to cancel nearly $1 billion worth of investments in green hydrogen and battery production here in the US.
Yeah, a little more. I mean, the tragedy of this rollback, this one-horse bet in a multi-horse race, which your administration is making now. It's put a bet on the oldest, tiredest horse of the lot, which is fossil fuel. And by the way, all these other horses, which are fit, lean, they're getting stronger every day, which is renewable energy, renewable technology, storage, everything which Fortescue, my company, is doing. And I just want to say to your president, you know, I'm a businessman, like you apparently, and I run Australia's highest growth company, highest shareholder return company in Australia's stock exchange history. And we're going fully green because it's good business. Yes, so we did place big bets throughout North America. I think the one which breaks my heart most is a large building we purchased in Detroit to make batteries. That was the original Henry T. Ford factory. So I thought, what a great history. When we went from horse and cart and everyone said it's impossible to go to a motorised car, that'll never work. And then horse and cart went out and cars are in, apparently, even in North America. You know, I'm seeing, you know, all those plans to employ thousands of people, produce batteries for the American people, you know, shattered.
I wanted to talk to you about what your company is doing. I visited your company's mines about 3 years ago. And at that time, you were incredibly bullish on green hydrogen in particular, and your company is still pledging to run all of its operations on what you call real zero, which I'll let you explain what that is, by 2030, which is now 3 years closer than it was when we last spoke. And I know there's been progress on that front, but also setbacks. And you will probably disagree with me on this, but I would imagine that decarbonization of your business seems nearly as distant as it was then. So how is it going to ramp up and actually get there, especially when your company is releasing kind of new, plans for growth that seem to place less and less emphasis on green hydrogen?
Yeah, look, green hydrogen is one part of the mix. Okay, we learn by doing, and green hydrogen as a transportable energy, I don't think at this stage is as competitive as, say, green ammonia, or using green hydrogen to make green steel, which is a huge amount of the global carbon budget, or using green hydrogen to make green ammonia for fertilizer. There's the beauty of learning by doing is that we worked out that there's more hydrogen molecules in a cubic metre of ammonia than there is in a cubic metre of hydrogen. So and that's because the nitrogen molecules are so big and the hydrogen molecules are so small that gravity compresses the hydrogen molecules. So you've got ammonia, which is a fantastic fuel. And we've got proof of it. It's floating in the harbour, and you're welcome to go and see it. It's called the Green Pioneer. So we haven't turned back on hydrogen. We're just using it now for different applications. We've got proposals around the world to make green fertiliser, green shipping fuel, and in our own backyard, we are the biggest iron ore producers, seaborne iron ore producers on Earth, to allow the steel industry to go green. And the steel industry is the biggest single polluter in the world.
So can ammonia do that, though? Is ammonia then key to decarbonizing certain hard-to-abate industrial sectors like steel and shipping?
Yeah, look, it really is. I mean, we'll use hydrogen to rip the oxygen out of the iron ore, which is, you've got oxygen bound up in the molecular structure of iron ore. You can get that out by throwing it into coal, chucking a match to it, blowing it all up, putting carbon emissions out in the world. It's 200-year-old technology. We're still doing it. Or you can use hydrogen to pull the oxygen out and go straight to green iron, which is 99% of the emissions of green steel gone. And you also use green hydrogen to make ammonia. Ammonia is a fuel, ladies and gentlemen, which can be made not out of organics or not out of anything with carbon in the supply chain, like methane, ethane, etc. It is freely available from air, water, wind, sun. We're not going to run out of that stuff. The water balance of the world won't change.
But you've got to build it, right? How do you build it that quickly? And I think that leads me to the question of where the money for this comes from. And I was reading that Fortescue had secured, I think it was $2 billion in loans from Chinese banks recently, and was wondering if you could talk about the role that those banks would have in accelerating this process to happen quick enough to meet the ambitious deadline that you set for yourself.
Yeah, look, we're going green, ladies and gentlemen, which means real zero. We have a problem with this word net. I want to reach out to everyone in the world and just say that word net got shoved into the global warming debate by the fossil fuel sector many years ago. It's been responsible for all the cop-outs in the world by people like me, politicians, etc., carbon credits, carbon trading, carbon offsets, all that rubbish. It's done nothing to help global warming. The fossil fuel emissions and your temperatures around the world have been rising at a record rate ever since that word net came in. So I'm just asking people to go real zero. Stop burning fossil fuel. You know you can do it. The technology's now there. We're proof. We'll have the job done in about 3 or 4 years. Where's the money coming from? We're borrowed, luckily repaid, tens of billions of dollars from US banks. The Chinese liquidity is increasing, European liquidity is there, so we reach out to all sources of capital. The enemy of my enemy, which is anyone who wants to give Fortescue capital in order to go fully green, set the example, keep our fabulous financial track record going, but go fully green. I'm a marine ecologist. This means a lot to me. And I've seen the devastation of what's happened to the largest reef systems on Earth. Great Barrier Reef, the longest fringing reef systems on Earth, the Ningaloo Reef. I've seen it personally. The Montebello's, once famous for being a nuclear site for the British in the 50s. Beautiful reef systems, first great tipping point, predicted by science for decades. Coral reefs will get smashed. They are smashed, ladies and gentlemen. It is tragic to dive over those reefs now. So I feel real pain when I hear your president saying global warming is a great big con. It just, fellow businessman, I happen to own several million acres of land in Australia. Come and see what's happening to my land. Come and dive on these reefs, which were the most beautiful environments on Earth and are now devastated, covered in moss. Now, come and see what I see in the Pacific, where sea level rise is happening. I've been searching for my uncle's remains in Papua New Guinea. He died with North American troops fighting over Papua New Guinea, who was a pilot. And so I've had this long-term relationship with these remote islands searching for my uncle. And they're shifting their villages back as the tides get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's only over 5 years. So I'm just saying, look, there's real damage being done to people's lives all over the world by your president propagating a complete myth that global warming isn't happening. Mm-hmm. That's wrong. That's utterly wrong.
But Trump isn't really the only force out there that is kind of working backwards in some ways. I think we've seen a huge rollback by a lot of companies and banks and financial sector in their pledges to go to
and why are they doing that?
Real. Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, well, why are they doing it? It's because of Trump. Because of the policies which you've got a person who's propagating a myth. Doesn't matter how many times you tell a lie, right? It's still going to be a lie. Work that out. You've got a US administration, there's probably lots of you in the audience, and you're sharpening your blades. You've got a US administration which is propagating a myth that global warming isn't happening. And I just want to say, get your scuba tank on or your snorkel, come and look at these reefs, come out to the outback of Australia, and you'll see it happening. And look, I just want to say to anyone in the US administration, if you're finding my words offensive, if you want to sue me, I'll give you my lawyer's address, sue me. But I do want to say this. You won't always have the United States taxpayer, which holds up your government, protecting you. Sue me, I'm going to put you in the witness box when you're out of government.
So let's say that goes through, or even if it doesn't. What do you think are the geopolitical implications for you and your company, and for others, of shifting your reliance on financing or the actual factories that you build from the United States to other places? And presumably, China is becoming more and more a factor in that.
Yeah, look, I'm kind of devastated. Yeah, I've loved North America really all my life. You're the land of the free. So to have an administration of this country propagating that global warming doesn't exist is heartbreaking to my children, to my family, most people in Australia. You saw the election result in Australia was pretty strong. You have a government there which is just accepting that global warming's out there, and the Australian people are going to do very well out of the economic transition into pollution-free fuels. Look, geopolitically, I recognise that there's people out there, leaders again, who want to compare the economic appendage of their appendage to someone else's economic appendage, to someone else's economic appendage. And I'm just saying, whoever's the biggest economy in the world, I can't tell you how irrelevant that is in the fullness of anthropogenic time. You know, you are a blip in time. What matters way more in all of time, of humanity, organic time, is are we going to screw this climate or not? Are we going to turn this glass of water into a lethal humidity event? Because humidity, ladies and gentlemen, is rising 7 to 8 times quicker than heat around the world. And you've got air conditioning here. But in summer, if you didn't have this air conditioning on, if it broke, and you happen to have a humidity event, you start running high humidity at 29 degrees Celsius, not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, and you're going to start a process to a very painful death. And I'm part of a global council. I chair a global scientific council. They met again on the Fortescue Green Pioneer yesterday. And we measure deaths from lethal humidity caused by heat all over the world. And there's something binary about someone who's dead. If they're dead or alive. You can't snow your way out of that politically, right? Oh, he's dead. Well, maybe a heart machine. No, he's actually dead, Mr. President. That's heat stress from the organs shutting down because the human system is this miracle which can handle heat. You can expel 4 litres a day in hot environments, but switch up the humidity and it just flows off you. It doesn't cool you because it doesn't evaporate. Then your blood-brain barrier around your brain starts to break down and you begin to die. And we measure these deaths now around the world and they're happening as I speak. So, yes, for them, I feel the tragedy of their deaths being written off as global warming is bunk because heat and humidity kill them.
Andrew, we don't have very much time, but I want to get to one other topic, which is that you had contributed a chunk of money to this relatively unknown organization called the Intergenerational Environment Justice Fund. I've had to reread that many times just because it's such an...
It's a good name, huh?
Unknown to me organization. And that organization was one of a few that took Exxon to court. And I just wanted to know from you, what is your end game there? And did you essentially create this organization for that purpose? And, how do you plan to use this lawsuit to kind of further your own beliefs?
Yeah, look, we fund, we're a large philanthropy. The Moderator Foundation is Australia's largest foundation. It's what I've been incredibly lucky in business, ladies and gentlemen, so we're giving that capital away. We can pay off the mortgage and put the kids through school. So, and one of the things it does is defend people's rights around the world. Now, plastic has been written off by the petro companies for a very long time as being able to be recycled. And there's phthalates, poisons, colourings all through plastic. The food authorities of civilised countries like ours are really careful about what's in the food and what you sell to people because they might consume poison innocently. So we've got to watch that. What they're not watching is plastic. The plastic which emits those phthalates, poisons, those micro and nanoplastics which do destroy people. It impacts the fertility of men. It does all sorts of things. And while the big companies say plastic's fully recyclable, so just keep buying it, well, it's not. And when you recycle some of it, it concentrates those poisons into the next product, which you then consume. So, yes, I fund people who are willing to stand up to corporate giants, and they've delegitimized that by coming straight after me. I'm saying, groovy. Do that. As I've said before, sue me, I'll put you in a witness box.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.